GPUs are coming down in price, but what did it cost us, boys?
Everything.
The results are in, and the RTX 4070 sales are actually very poor, at least from the early metrics that I can get online, from not just the Amazon sales in America, but also if we look at places like Japan here, the sales are so low that this card failed to break the #1 spot in its debut launch week, which says that there is a big problem going on with the 4070, and in particular, its pricing.
Never pay full price for Windows 10 or 11 again. With today's video sponsor, SCD Keys, you can get activated for as little as $15 using that coupon BFTYC. Links in the description below.
And this is where, if we go over to the Australian market, here's where we're seeing the card already coming in under MSRP values of that $599 price point. Now, when we convert these Australian dollars into US dollars, it is coming over $599, but do keep in mind that Australians do have to pay a mandatory 10% goods and sales tax on every, especially computer part that's new, that's sold from a retailer. So these prices are actually, once we take out the 10% taxes on top, they're already dropping under MSRP, which is actually the first time I've seen this happen on any 70 class series card in an extremely long time. And in fact, the last time I can remember a 70 class series card launching with such lackluster results would have been the GTX 770, and that is now going back over a decade ago. But then following that, we had the GTX 970 and 1070, and they were really successful launches for NVIDIA, where another thing you can look at is the used market, and you can see if all the predecessor cards are up for sale. And this is where, if I'm looking online at RTX 3080 pricing and 3060 Ti's and 3070s, they're really coming in at similar prices on the used market as they were before the RTX 4070 launch. So it finally looks like NVIDIA and the RTX 4070 have met a brick wall, and that brick wall is $599, and it's definitely not going to budge until it gets a price drop. And it's looking like that price drop is going to be coming sooner than later. However, what happened here in terms of the economic side of things? And this is where I've been disagreeing with quite a few people out there, at least in the last few years, that say that NVIDIA can set whatever price they want and people are going to buy it. And that's where I've got back to absolutely not. If money starts becoming more sound and people start placing more weight in that money they have and what it can purchase, then they're going to be looking for the best value possible. So in other words, when a new card launches like the 4070 and people aren't buying it, then the market quite simply perceives this as poor value. And so that's what's happening with the 4070 launch, and I think it's taken NVIDIA by surprise, where they thought the value was really good, and here at Tech City, I thought the value was doing the bare minimum, where it's coming in with a better price point than the RTX 3080, and it's coming in $100 cheaper, but it's not giving you the same action-packed value as the RTX 3070 even was giving with its $100 cheaper price point when that was released nearly 3 years ago. And so NVIDIA is going to have to go back to the drawing board now and change the pricing of their RTX 4070, or at least that's what rumors would have it so far, where I'm hearing from Igor's labs that NVIDIA is going to offer a $50 rebate on RTX 4070 sales, meaning that if you're eligible for this rebate, you can buy it at $599, then get the rebate, send it in, and you'll get $50 back, essentially now making this card at a price point of $549, which it looks like $50 in this case, I feel is not going to be warranted given the macroeconomic picture. Now, I'm throwing out these fancy economic terms here, but just give me a second, let me explain. We call this around Tech City Tech Yesonomics, and I believe this has everything to do with the GPU market, and more specifically, the GPU prices themselves right now. Where if we look at the used market, even in my recent deals hunt, I picked up a GTX 1080, which was a really high quality card when that was first released, and even today, it's still a great gaming card. I picked this up for a little over $100, and that's showing that it's actually really good value out there at the used market right now. Not only that, it's coming in at a price point where if we look at what graphics card was beating the RTX 4070 in its debut launch, it was the RX 6600, which is a much more affordable price point for people who want to get into PC gaming or people who want to replace their older graphics cards that are just simply too old or they've failed. And so that card represents and it signifies to NVIDIA, and not just NVIDIA but also AMD and Intel, that the market cannot simply afford a price tag as much as NVIDIA would want to sell these cards at $599. So as much as other people tell you that NVIDIA can do what they want, NVIDIA is now coming up against the free market, and the free market, especially when they get a taste of sounder money, and that's basically related to the government, and more particular the Federal Reserve, turning off the money printers and stop destroying the value of the dollar. When this happens, people make more informed purchasing decisions, as opposed to, say for instance, giving out stimmy checks years ago, and that money itself having really no value attached to it. That's how you destroy purchasing power. So what we're going to see going forward is the longer the money printers stay off, and I actually should loosely use the word money printer with electronically digital input of numbers, because even the forefathers in history, they actually had to put the effort into rolling up the money printers and printing out the paper. The Federal Reserve can nowadays just get on their keyboard and go, $5 trillion? Yes, to my Wall Street buddies and pals, here you go. Let's destroy society some more. Though going forward, the prices of GPUs ultimately will keep coming down. And now we've talked about this in depth as to two ways this scenario can go. But we're going to quickly reference two of my favorite charts in this video, and then I'll refer you to two other videos if you want to know more about this subject that we're going to talk about right now. And that is, first of all, the money supply. That has been shrinking in the last year, and all things considered, if this is shrinking and products and services remain at the same constant supply that they are, then this means that prices will come down. However, one thing to look at with this graph is if this is spiking up rapidly, then you may wish to spend those dollars as fast as possible, because the newly created dollars are going to be devaluing the dollars that you currently saved. Though I've talked about the two scenarios going forward and what they're most likely going to be in a separate video. I'll put that up here, even though the title and the thumbnail might seem a bit sensational. I guarantee you guys, there's always facts and data baked into the video, so don't be alarmed at the title. It's actually got a lot of truth to it. Then we get on to the next graph. However, this has got to do with the Federal Reserve's balance sheet, and this one has spiked up recently, where they had to bail out a Silicon Valley bank with a thing known as a discount window, buying back bonds at essentially 0.1% interest, allowing the banks that partook and sold these assets to the Fed to get quick cash. But it looks like that's a one-off event. Even though I'm skeptical of this being a true one-off event, it looks like the tightening has commenced again with the Federal Reserve's balance sheet, and they're going to be actively selecting the winners and losers. And we've also talked about this subject in a video, and I'll put the link up here to that if you want to know more about this topic. However, relating those two things back to GPUs now, what we can see is NVIDIA isn't bigger than the free market. They can't command whatever prices they want. With money itself becoming somewhat, at least compared to years before it, more sound, that means that pricing of products has to be better value, especially when the prices have gone up of everything, and that's disproportionate to people's wages and how far they have risen in the last 3 years. So with all that information out of the way, hopefully we've proved in today's video two things. And the first thing is NVIDIA cannot set whatever price they want in the market, and people will pay it. This 4070 launch has finally caught up with NVIDIA, where they've got a really good graphics card on their hands. It's extremely efficient and the numbers are pretty good. However, the price of $599, the market has quite simply perceived that as quite poor. And so they're going to simply have to lower the price to match the current economic conditions. Now, also another thing that we've proved in today's video is that a lot of these pricing issues have to do with money itself. If the value of a dollar is being devalued, then it carries less worth, and therefore people want to spend it, and they're rewarding companies that aren't innovating as well as they are. However, when that dollar remains sound and people have more desire to acquire it and they place more value on that dollar itself, then they're going to make more informed purchasing decisions and ultimately bring about not just better value to the market, but better innovation, since these companies now have to compete harder for your I'd hope it's harder earned dollar than it previously was when the money's being printed out and handed out so easily. Anyhow, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, then be sure to hit that like button for us. And also let us know in the comment section below, do you agree with what was said in today's video? Do you disagree? Love reading your thoughts and opinions as always. I'll try to answer your questions as best as I can, just like this question of the day here, which comes from Bizo Robert 0815. And they ask, do you think it is worth 200 more euros for a 4070 Ti instead of a 4070? And then they go on to say what games they play. And quite simply, my answer to that would be no. I don't think it's worth it to get a 4070 Ti over a 4070. And I think you're better off saving your 200 euros. But even then, I think the prices, just like we've talked about in today's video of the 4070, will come down to even more attractive levels. And you'll know that's the case when you start seeing the 4070 topping the sales charts. And on that note, we've also got rumors of the RTX 4060 Ti and 4060 on the way. And if it's anything for NVIDIA, they're going to have to drop the prices of those cards as well. They're going to have to accommodate a market that quite simply wants better value. And we can see that not just in the used market, but also in the new market too. And this is going to be something that may come as a big shock to NVIDIA, where they thought they had a big winner on their hands. And the card's great. It's just the price isn't. So the market is spoken, and just like we said in the RTX 4070 review, if everyone else is taking a haircut, NVIDIA is going to have to take that proverbial haircut as well and drop the prices. So it's haircuts all around. That seems to be the 2023 scenario. As opposed to haircuts, I like to keep mine nice and short, but I got to be careful not to go too short, otherwise I end up with a buzz cut. And then my son, he starts laughing at me. So I guess a buzz cut doesn't suit me, but hey, you never know. Buzz cut with the pricing on the RTX 4070, I think a lot of people would like that. Anyhow, guys, if you stayed this far and you're enjoying that tech-ass content, be sure to hit that sub button, ring that bell, and I'll catch you in another tech video very soon. Peace out for now. Bye.